The morning sun shone bright over New Haven Colony. Children walked to school with their backpacks, talking and laughing like kids everywhere. Amy Carter waved goodbye to her mother and ran to catch up with her friends. She was 10 years old and loved going to Aurora Academy. Dr. Lisa Carter watched her daughter disappear around the corner. She smiled and turned back to her husband, Ben, who was drinking coffee at their kitchen table. Ben was the school principal, and Lisa worked as the head science teacher. They both loved their jobs at the academy. "Another beautiful day," Lisa said as she kissed Ben's cheek. "The kids will be excited for the assembly today." Ben nodded and checked his watch. "I should get going. The morning pledge ceremony starts in an hour, and I want to make sure everything is ready." Across the colony, Captain Jake Murphy stood on the bridge of his defense ship, the Guardian. He was responsible for protecting New Haven and its 50,000 people. The colony sat on the edge of human space, far from Earth, but close to alien territories. Murphy had been a soldier for 20 years, but this posting was peaceful. Nothing ever happened here. His communications officer, Lieutenant Steve Adams, looked up from his console. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings on the long-range sensors." Murphy walked over to look. "What kind of readings?" "Not sure, sir. Could be space debris or maybe a small asteroid field. It's pretty far out." Murphy shrugged. "Keep an eye on it, but don't worry too much. Probably nothing." At Aurora Academy, 12,000 children gathered in the main assembly hall. The building was huge and beautiful, with tall windows that let in the morning light. Amy Carter sat with her class, waiting for Principal Carter to start the daily ceremony. Ben Carter walked onto the stage and smiled at all the young faces looking up at him. These children came from dozens of human colonies. Their parents had sent them to New Haven because Aurora Academy was the best school in this part of space. "Good morning, everyone," Ben said into his microphone. "Let's begin with our pledge." 12,000 children stood up together. They put their hands over their hearts and began to recite the words they said every morning. "We pledge to learn, to grow, to help each other, and to make humanity proud among the stars." High above the planet, invisible ships moved through space. The Zephyrian Empire had sent their best stealth vessels. War Commander Vexthal sat in his command chair, watching New Haven on his screens. To him, humans were just another species that needed to be controlled. "The target is confirmed," his weapons officer reported. "All ships are in position." Vexthal smiled coldly. "Humans think they can expand across the galaxy without consequences. Today we teach them otherwise. Target the school. Make sure the entire galaxy sees what happens to those who challenge us." Back in the assembly hall, the children finished their pledge and sat down. Ben Carter was about to speak when alarms started ringing throughout the colony. The sound was loud and frightening. Captain Murphy's voice came over the school's communication system. "This is Captain Murphy. We have detected hostile ships approaching the colony. All citizens should move to emergency shelters immediately." Ben Carter tried to stay calm. "Children, please follow your teachers to the emergency areas. Walk, don't run. Everything will be okay." But everything was not okay. The Zephyrian ships had already locked onto their target. Plasma bombs dropped from the sky like deadly rain. The first explosion hit the east wing of Aurora Academy. Amy Carter was walking toward the emergency exit when the world exploded around her. The blast threw her against a wall. She could hear other children screaming, but the sound seemed far away. Everything hurt, and she couldn't move her legs. "Mommy," she whispered, but no one could hear her over the noise of continuing explosions. Captain Murphy watched in horror from his ship as the Academy was destroyed. "All units, attack those ships. Stop them." But it was too late. The Zephyrian vessels had done their work and were already jumping back to hyperspace. Murphy's small defense fleet could not catch them. Dr. Lisa Carter was in her laboratory when the first explosion shook the building. She knew immediately that something terrible was happening at the school. She ran outside and saw smoke rising from where Aurora Academy used to stand. She ran through the streets, pushing past emergency vehicles and crying parents. When she reached the school, she found only burning ruins. Rescue teams were pulling children from the wreckage, but most were not moving. Lisa searched through the debris, calling her daughter's name. She found Amy under a collapsed wall. The little girl was still breathing, but barely. Lisa held her daughter close, tears streaming down her face. "It's okay, baby," Lisa whispered. "Mommy's here." Amy opened her eyes and looked at her mother. "Did we do something wrong?" she asked in a small voice. "No, sweetheart. You did nothing wrong. You're perfect." Amy smiled weakly and closed her eyes. She never opened them again. Captain Murphy found Ben Carter in what used to be the main hall. The principal was sitting among the broken chairs and desks, staring at nothing. His face was covered in dust and blood. "Ben," Murphy said softly, "we need to get you to a medical center." Ben looked up at him with empty eyes. "They were just saying their pledge," he said. "They were just children saying their pledge." The rescue operation continued for 3 days. Of the 12,000 children who had been in Aurora Academy that morning, only 800 survived. Most of those were badly hurt and would never be the same. The news of the massacre spread across the galaxy in hours. Every human colony received the reports with shock and grief. On Earth, people gathered in the streets, crying and holding their own children closer. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species discussed the attack. Most agreed it was terrible, but they also said there was nothing they could do. The Zephyrian Empire claimed it had been a military mistake. "We regret the loss of life," the Zephyrian ambassador said. "But humans should not place military targets near civilian areas." Aurora Academy had no military equipment. It was just a school. Captain Murphy stood in the ruins one last time before the cleanup crews arrived. He picked up a small backpack that belonged to one of the dead children. Inside was a drawing of a family standing in front of a house with a big sun shining overhead. At the bottom, in a child's handwriting, were the words, "My family is happy on New Haven." Murphy folded the picture carefully and put it in his pocket. Then he walked back to his ship to send a message to Earth. The message was simple: they killed our children, all of them, on purpose. The galaxy would soon learn that killing human children was the worst mistake the Zephyrian Empire had ever made. The news reached Earth at 3 a.m. local time. President Daniel Hayes was asleep when his phone rang. His security chief, Agent Paul Davis, was on the other end of the line. "Mr. President, you need to see this immediately," Davis said. His voice was shaking. Hayes put on his robe and walked to the Situation Room. When he saw the images from New Haven on the big screen, he felt sick. Thousands of small bodies covered in white sheets. Parents crying over their dead children. The smoking ruins of Aurora Academy. "How many?" Hayes asked quietly. 11,200 confirmed dead, sir. 800 survivors, most in critical condition. Hayes closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Give me Admiral Blake. Wake up the entire cabinet and prepare a statement for the nation." 2 hours later, President Hayes stood before the cameras. His eyes were red from crying, but his voice was steady and strong. "My fellow Americans and all humans across the galaxy," he began. "Yesterday, our children were murdered, not by accident, not by mistake. They were targeted and killed because they were human." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "Today, I am declaring a state of total war. Every resource of Earth and her colonies will be devoted to one purpose: justice for our children." Admiral Susan Blake was already at the Pentagon when the president's speech ended. She had been in the military for 30 years and had never seen anything like this. Her own grandson was the same age as many of the children who died on New Haven. "Admiral," her aide Colonel Ryan Clark said, "we're receiving volunteer requests from every branch of service. The numbers are incredible." Blake looked at the reports coming in. In just 4 hours, over 2 million people had tried to enlist. The recruitment offices couldn't handle them all. "Open every training facility," she ordered. "Convert civilian shipyards to military production. I want every factory in America working on this war effort." On Mars, General Chris Stone received the activation codes for Project Warhammer. The secret military program had been developing new weapons for 20 years, but they were considered too dangerous for normal warfare. Not anymore. Dr. Kevin Ross, the head scientist, met Stone in the underground facility. General, the quantum torpedoes are ready for mass production. We can also begin building the kinetic bombardment systems. How long until we have enough weapons to equip the entire fleet? Stone asked. 6 months if we work around the clock. But, sir, these weapons are designed to destroy entire planets. Are you sure about this? Stone thought about the pictures he had seen from New Haven. Doctor, they killed children who were saying their morning pledge. I'm sure. The response from human colonies across the galaxy was immediate and overwhelming. On Titan Station, mining operations stopped all commercial work and began producing military metals. The peaceful farming colony of Eden converted their transport ships into supply vessels. Even the pacifist settlements joined the war effort. Gandhi Station, which had never allowed weapons on their world, voted to send their young people to military training. Their leader, Dr. Mary Johnson, made the announcement herself. We have always believed in peace, she said to her people. But there can be no peace while child killers walk free. Our children will learn to fight, so that no other children have to die. The Zephyrian Empire watched these developments with growing concern. War Commander Vexthal had expected humans to be angry for a few weeks, then give up. He had not expected this. They are mobilizing their entire species, his intelligence officer reported. Every human world is contributing to their military buildup. Vexthal laughed, but it sounded forced. Let them waste their resources. Humans are emotional creatures. They will exhaust themselves in meaningless rage. But some members of the Galactic Council were not so sure. The ancient Altarians had been watching humanity for decades. Elder Kethvar called an emergency meeting of the Council. We are witnessing something unprecedented, the old alien said. Humans are not acting from rage. They are acting from purpose. There is a difference. The telepathic Vorthan collective agreed. Their leader, Mindspeaker Johan, had sensed a human emotional response across space. Their grief has become determination, Johan reported. They do not seek revenge. They seek justice. The entire species moves as one mind toward a single goal. Meanwhile, human military production reached levels never seen before. The shipyards of Luna worked 24 hours a day. Earth's orbital factories produced new fighters and bombers every hour. The asteroid mining stations provided endless raw materials. Captain Roy Martinez watched the construction from his command ship. He had been assigned to lead the first hunter group when the fleet was ready. His own daughter had been visiting New Haven when the attack happened. She was one of the 800 survivors, but she would never walk again. Captain, his communications officer said, we're receiving reports from all over human space. Every family wants to contribute something to the war effort. Martinez nodded. What kind of contributions? Everything, sir. Money, ships, equipment, food. But mostly people. Everyone wants to serve. The war preparations continued for months. Human technology advanced rapidly under the pressure of total mobilization. Dr. Ross's quantum torpedoes were tested on empty asteroids. The results were devastating. A single torpedo could destroy a ship the size of a small moon, but the most impressive development was not technological. It was social. Humanity had never been truly united before. Different colonies had different governments, different cultures, different goals. The massacre at New Haven changed all of that. President Hayes received a message from every human settlement in the galaxy. They all said the same thing. We stand with Earth. We stand for our children. The Galactic Council tried to arrange peace talks. Ambassador Colden of the neutral Meridian Republic offered to mediate between humans and Zephyrians. President Hayes met with the ambassador in the White House. His answer was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Ambassador, I appreciate your offer, Hayes said calmly. But there will be no negotiation with those who murder children. There will be no compromise with evil. There will be only justice. After the ambassador left, Hayes stood alone in the Oval Office. On his desk was a picture sent from New Haven. It showed Amy Carter and her classmates on their first day of school, smiling and holding hands. Hayes picked up the phone and called Admiral Blake. "Susan, how much longer?" "2 more months, Mr. President. Then we launch Operation Righteous Fury." "Good," Hayes said, still looking at the picture. "Those children deserve justice. And by God, they're going to get it." Across the galaxy, other species watched the human preparations with growing amazement and fear. Never before had they seen an entire civilization mobilized with such unified purpose. The humans were not just building an army. They were forging themselves into a weapon of justice. The Zephyrian Empire had wanted to send humanity a message. Instead, they had awakened something that would change the galaxy forever. 6 months after the New Haven massacre, humanity struck back. Admiral Susan Blake stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, Earth's newest and most powerful warship. Around her, 11 other hunter groups prepared to launch Operation Righteous Fury. "All ships report ready," her communications officer announced. Blake opened a channel to the entire fleet. "Today we begin, not for conquest, not for territory, but for justice. For every child who died at New Haven, we will make the galaxy safe again." The first target was a Zephyrian supply depot on the edge of their territory. Captain Roy Martinez commanded the UES Vengeance, leading Hunter Group Alpha toward the station. His crew was filled with volunteers, many of them parents who had lost children. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "enemy station ahead. They're trying to send a distress signal." Martinez watched the Zephyrian supply depot on his screen. It was huge, providing fuel and weapons to dozens of military ships. But he also saw something else on the scanners. "Their civilian transports docked there," he said. "Evacuate them first." His weapons officer looked confused. "Sir, shouldn't we just destroy everything?" "No," Martinez said firmly. "We're not like them. Send a message to the station. Tell all civilians they have 1 hour to leave safely." The Zephyrian commander of the station could not believe what he was hearing. "They're giving us time to evacuate?" His aide nodded. "The human message says all non-military personnel can leave without being attacked." Within an hour, transport ships filled with Zephyrian families flew away from the station. Martinez watched them go, then gave the order to attack. The new quantum torpedoes tore through the station's shields like paper. In minutes, the entire depot was destroyed, but no civilians died. This pattern repeated across Zephyrian space. Human forces attacked military targets with devastating precision, but always gave civilians time to escape. The galaxy watched in amazement as Earth's most powerful fleet showed more mercy than most armies showed their own people. Commander Lisa Park flew her fighter squadron toward a Zephyrian military base on Kepler 7. She had lost her 8-year-old son at New Haven. The pain never left her, but she channeled it into perfect flying. "Stay in formation," she told her pilots. "Hit the weapon factories first, then the ship construction yards. Avoid the residential areas." Her squadron dove toward the planet like angels of death. Every shot they fired hit exactly where it was supposed to. Every bomb they dropped destroyed only military targets. The Zephyrian defenders had never seen flying like this. "They fight like machines," one Zephyrian pilot radioed before his ship was destroyed. "But machines with hearts." Back on Earth, President Hayes received reports from all 12 hunter groups. The news was the same everywhere. Human forces were destroying Zephyrian military power with incredible speed and efficiency. General Stone called from Mars. "Mr. President, our forces have eliminated 60% of their outer defenses in just 2 weeks. But, sir, there's something strange happening." "What do you mean?" Hayes asked. "Zephyrian soldiers are surrendering faster than we expected. Our intelligence suggests they're losing the will to fight." Hayes was not surprised. "Would you want to fight an enemy who shows more honor than your own commanders?" The Zephyrian Empire was indeed cracking. War Commander Vexthal watched his territory shrink day by day. But worse than the military losses was the damage to Zephyrian morale. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving messages from our own colonies. They're asking why we attack children. Vexthol slammed his fist on his desk. We are at war. There's no room for weakness. But his officers were beginning to doubt him. They had expected humans to fight like savage beasts, making them easy to defeat. Instead, humans fought like professional soldiers with perfect discipline. They protected civilians better than most armies protected their own troops. The turning point came when the Galactic Council's mediator, Ambassador Kulden, witnessed a human attack firsthand. He was visiting a Zephyrian border world when Captain Martinez's fleet arrived. The human ship surrounded the planet, but did not attack. Instead, they broadcast a message. This is Captain Martinez of Earthfleet. We have come for your military installations. All civilians will be protected. Surrender your weapons, and no one needs to die. Ambassador Kulden watched in amazement as human forces landed on the planet. They moved through the capital city, destroying military buildings but helping civilian families to safety. When Zephyrian soldiers tried to use civilians as shields, human troops risked their own lives to protect the innocents. After the battle, Kulden met with Captain Martinez. I have seen many wars, the alien diplomat said. I have never seen anything like this. Martinez looked tired but determined. Ambassador, we're not here to conquer. We're here to make sure no other children die like ours did. But your forces could have destroyed this entire world in minutes. Why show such restraint? Martinez pulled out a small picture from his pocket. It showed his daughter from before the attack on New Haven. Now she would never walk again. Because, he said quietly, we're fighting to make the galaxy safer for all children, not just human ones. The ambassador's report to the Galactic Council changed everything. For the first time in galactic history, a species was waging total war while maintaining perfect moral authority. Dr. Kevin Ross watched the battle reports from his laboratory on Mars. His quantum weapons were performing exactly as designed, but the human soldiers were using them with incredible precision. Not one civilian world had been harmed. We've created the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, he told General Stone. But our people are using them like surgeons, not butchers. Admiral Blake received a priority message from the Altarian Council. The ancient aliens have been neutral for thousands of years, but Elder Kethvar's words were shocking. Admiral Blake, we have watched your species with great interest. Today, we formally recognize that humanity fights a just war. The Altarian Council offers our support. Similar messages came from across the galaxy. The Vorthan Collective, the Corvin Union, even some Zephyrian colonies began to question their own government. War Commander Vexthol found himself increasingly isolated. His own officers started to refuse orders that would harm civilians. His supply lines were cut. His allies were abandoning him. But the worst moment came when he received a message from Captain Murphy, the defender of New Haven who had survived a massacre. Commander Vexthol, Murphy's voice was calm and steady. You killed our children because you thought we would break. You were wrong. We didn't break. We became stronger. Now your empire is falling apart, and your own people are ashamed of what you did. Murphy paused, and when he spoke again, his words echoed across the galaxy. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with the mercy you denied our children. Keep fighting and face the consequences of your choice. The message was broadcast on every Zephyrian world. For the first time since the war began, Vexthol felt afraid, not of human weapons, but of human justice. He looked at the tactical display, showing human forces advancing on all fronts. They moved with unstoppable purpose, guided by a moral certainty that made them more dangerous than any weapon. The galaxy was learning that humanity's fury was not wild rage. It was cold, precise, and absolutely righteous. And nothing in the universe could stand against it. The war changed completely when the Altarian Council broke their ancient neutrality. Elder Kethvar stood before the Galactic Assembly, his voice carrying the weight of 10,000 years of wisdom. For millennia, we have watched species rise and fall, the ancient alien said. We have seen wars of conquest, wars of greed, wars of hatred. But today we witness something new. Humanity fights a war of justice. The assembly hall fell silent. The Altarians were the oldest civilization in the galaxy. They had never taken sides in any conflict. The Altarian Council formally recognizes Earth's righteous cause. Kethvar continued. We offer our technological archives and our support to humanity. Within hours, other species followed. The telepathic Vorthan collective announced their decision through mind speaker Johann. We can sense the purity of human intent, Johann declared. They do not fight for power or territory. They fight to protect innocence itself. The Vorthans stand with Earth. The Industrial Corvin Union was next. Their leader, Prime Constructor Zaltek, made the announcement from their homeworld. Human credits are good, but human principles are better. Zaltek said in his practical way, we will provide materials for this just war. Admiral Blake received these messages aboard the UES Liberty as her fleet approached the Zephyrian inner systems. She could hardly believe what was happening. Admiral, her aide commander Tony Mitchell reported, we're receiving supply convoys from 6 different species. The Altarians are sending us weapon designs that are thousands of years old. Blake studied the new technical data. These are incredible. Weapons that can disable ships without killing crews. Shields that protect civilians during orbital bombardments. The ancient Altarian technology was not more powerful than human weapons, but it was more precise. Combined with human engineering, it created tools of war that could target military installations while leaving nearby hospitals untouched. General Chris Stone prepared for the assault on Zephyria Prime, the Empire's homeworld, but his battle plan shocked his own officers. Sir, Colonel Ryan Clark said, looking at the orders, you want us to set up refugee camps before we attack? Stone nodded. The Zephyrian military has been using civilians as human shields. We're going to remove that option. Every Zephyrian family will be protected in our camps before we engage their military. But, sir, that will take weeks. It gives them time to prepare their defenses. Stone smiled grimly. Colonel, we're not trying to surprise them. We're trying to save them from their own government. The plan worked perfectly. Human forces landed on Zephyria Prime and immediately began setting up massive camps. They provided food, medical care, and protection to Zephyrian civilians. Within days, entire cities were emptying as families chose human protection over their own military. War Commander Vexthal watched from his command bunker as his people abandoned him. They're traitors, he screamed at his remaining officers. All of them. But his own staff was beginning to doubt him. Colonel Krexmill, his second-in-command, spoke up for the first time in months. Commander, perhaps we should consider surrender. The humans have shown they will treat prisoners fairly. Vexthal pulled out his weapon. Anyone who speaks of surrender will be shot. But the damage was done. That night, half of his remaining officers deserted. They walked out of the bunker and surrendered to the nearest human patrol. Captain Roy Martinez led the final assault on the Zephyrian capital. His forces moved through the city with incredible care. Every building was scanned before attack. Every civilian was evacuated before any weapons were fired. The Zephyrian defenders were amazed. Human soldiers would risk their own lives to save enemy civilians. When Zephyrian troops tried to use hospitals as military bases, humans would surround the buildings and wait for all patients to be moved to safety. Why are they helping our people? One young Zephyrian soldier asked the sergeant. The sergeant, an old veteran of many wars, shook his head. I don't know, boy. I've never seen anything like it. The breakthrough came when Captain Jake Murphy, the survivor from New Haven, made a direct broadcast to all Zephyrian forces. He stood in front of the cameras, his face calm but his eyes filled with the pain of loss. Zephyrian soldiers, he began, you know who I am. I was there when your commanders ordered the murder of our children. I saw what your bombs did to innocents. Murphy paused, letting his words sink in. But I also see what you're doing now. Many of you are protecting civilians instead of following orders. You're showing the honor that your leaders never had. He looked directly into the camera. This is your choice. Surrender now, and you will be treated with the mercy you are showing to others. Continue to follow Vexthal and share his fate. The message was broadcast on every frequency. Within hours, entire Zephyrian units began laying down their weapons. They walked out of their positions with white flags, carrying their wounded and helping civilian refugees. The war was nearly over, But the most important moment came when Dr. Lisa Carter arrived on Zephyria Prime. She had volunteered to run the civilian refugee camps. The same woman who had lost her daughter Amy in the massacre. A group of young Zephyrian children approached her, scared and hungry. They had heard terrible stories about humans and expected to be hurt. Instead, Dr. Carter knelt down and smiled at them. "It's okay," she said gently. "You're safe now. Are you hungry?" The children nodded, still afraid. Dr. Carter took them to the food stations where human soldiers were serving meals to Zephyrian families. The aliens watched in amazement as their enemies fed their children. One little Zephyrian girl, about Amy's age, looked up at Dr. Carter. "Why are you being nice to us? We're your enemies." Dr. Carter felt tears in her eyes, but she smiled. "Because you're not my enemy, sweetheart. You're just a little girl who needs help." News of this moment spread across the galaxy. Video footage showed the human woman, who had lost her own child caring for the children of her enemies. It became the most watched broadcast in galactic history. The final battle was hardly a battle at all. Vexthol's bunker was surrounded by his own people demanding his surrender. When human forces arrived, they found the war commander alone, abandoned by everyone who had once followed him. General Stone entered the bunker with a small guard unit. Vexthol sat at his desk, staring at reports of his military's complete collapse. "It's over," Stone said simply. Vexthol looked up at him with bitter eyes. "You've destroyed everything I built." "No," Stone replied. "We've freed your people from what you built." As Vexthol was led away in custody, the galaxy witnessed something unprecedented. The most powerful military empire in known space had been defeated not by superior weapons, but by superior principles. Species across the galaxy sent messages of support to Earth. The Meridian Republic offered to host peace negotiations. The Centauri Federation requested human advisors for their own military. Even former enemies began asking for Earth's protection. President Hayes received a priority message from the Galactic Council. They were requesting that humanity take a permanent seat as one of the galaxy's great powers. But the most important message came from Zephyria Prime itself. The new provisional government, led by former Colonel Crexmill, sent a simple communication to Earth. "We are sorry. We will spend the rest of our existence making up for what we did to your children." The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their courage. It was their refusal to become what they fought against. The war ended not with the destruction of Zephyria, but with its transformation. War Commander Vexthol stood before a joint tribunal of human and galactic judges. The courtroom was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all watching as justice finally came for the children of New Haven. President Daniel Hayes sat in the front row next to Dr. Lisa Carter and Captain Jake Murphy. They had been given the honor of witnessing Vexthol's trial. Behind them sat hundreds of parents who had lost children in the massacre. The chief judge, Elder Kethvar of the Altarians, spoke first. "Vexthol of the Zephyrian Empire, you stand accused of ordering the deliberate murder of innocent children. How do you answer?" Vexthol looked around the courtroom and saw the faces of those he had wronged. For months, he had convinced himself that he was a great military leader. Now he saw the truth. "I am guilty," he said quietly. "I ordered the attack on Aurora Academy. I knew children would die. I wanted them to die." A gasp went through the courtroom. Many had expected him to deny his crimes or blame others. Dr. Carter stood up slowly. The judge nodded, giving her permission to speak. "Why?" she asked simply. "Why did you kill my daughter? Why did you kill all our children?" Vexthol looked at her for a long moment. "Because I was afraid," he said. "Afraid that humans would take over the galaxy. Afraid that my people would become weak. I thought killing your children would break your spirit. And now," Dr. Carter asked, "now I see that I was the weak one. You have shown more strength in defeat than I ever showed in victory." The trial lasted 3 days. Witnesses from across the galaxy testified about the massacre and the war that followed. When it ended, Vexthol was sentenced to life in prison. But more importantly, the trial established new galactic laws protecting children of all species. A month later, President Hayes addressed the Galactic Assembly for the first time. Earth had been offered a seat among the great powers, and Hayes had accepted. He stood at the podium where countless leaders had spoken before him. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," he began, "we did not seek this position. We did not want this responsibility. But when evil threatened innocence, we could not stand aside." He paused and looked around the vast assembly hall. "Today, I announce the formation of the Galactic Child Protection Alliance. Every species represented here pledges to defend the children of every other species. Never again will any child suffer, as ours did." The response was overwhelming. Every delegation stood and applauded. The Zephyrian representative, the new Democratic leader Sarah Kim, was the first to sign the treaty. On New Haven, construction was nearly complete on the new Aurora Academy. Dr. Lisa Carter walked through the halls, remembering her daughter Amy and all the other children who had died. The new school was beautiful, but it carried the names of all 11,200 victims. Captain Murphy found her standing in the memorial garden. "How are you doing, Lisa?" he asked. She smiled sadly. "Some days are harder than others. But seeing the new children here, from so many different species, it gives me hope." The new Aurora Academy was unlike anything in the galaxy. Human children learned alongside young Altarians, Vorthans, and even Zephyrians. The curriculum focused on peace, understanding, and protection of innocence. Above the main entrance, carved in stone in every galactic language, were the words that had become humanity's motto: "Never again, never forgotten." Admiral Susan Blake retired from active duty, but accepted the position of Galactic Defense Coordinator. Her job was to oversee the combined fleets of all allied species. The human fleet, still the most powerful in the galaxy, led patrol missions to protect peaceful trade routes. Admiral, her new aide, a young Vorthan named Silhan, reported, "We have a distress call from the Outer Rim. Pirates are attacking civilian ships." Blake smiled. "Send the Aurora Squadron. Time to remind the galaxy that we're watching." The Aurora Squadron was special. It was made up of pilots from every species in the Alliance, but it was commanded by humans. They flew ships equipped with the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but their mission was simple: protect the innocent. Captain Roy Martinez had requested to lead the squadron. His daughter was slowly learning to walk again with the help of Altarian medical technology. Every day she got stronger, and every day he remembered why the war had been fought. "All ships. This is Aurora Leader," he broadcast as they approached the pirate fleet. "You are attacking civilian vessels. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." The pirates tried to fight. They lasted exactly 4 minutes. On Earth, General Chris Stone worked with Dr. Kevin Ross to convert their weapons factories into peaceful industries. The quantum torpedo technology was adapted to clear dangerous asteroids from shipping lanes. The kinetic bombardment systems became construction tools for building space stations. "It's amazing," Dr. Ross said as he watched their former weapons being used to build a new hospital. "We created tools of destruction, and now they're tools of creation." Stone nodded. "That's what humans do. We adapt. We overcome. We build something better." The former Zephyrian Empire became humanity's strongest ally. The new government, led by people who had opposed the war, worked closely with Earth to establish peace throughout their former territory. Former Colonel Crexmill, now Prime Minister of the new Zephyrian Republic, met regularly with President Hayes. Their friendship had become a symbol of reconciliation throughout the galaxy. President Hayes, Crexmill said during one visit, "My people will spend generations trying to make up for what Vextol did. How can we ever earn your forgiveness?" Hayes thought about the question seriously. "You've already started," he said, "by choosing to be better than what you were, by protecting other children the way you couldn't protect ours." The galaxy had indeed become a safer place. The Child Protection Alliance had ships in every system. Trade flourished under the protection of the combined fleets. New technologies were shared freely between species. But the most important change was in the hearts of the galactic citizens. They had seen what happened when evil was allowed to triumph. They had also seen what happened when good people stood up to fight it. Dr. Lisa Carter often received visitors at the New Haven Memorial. Parents from across the galaxy brought their children to learn about the price of peace. She would tell them about Amy and the other children who had died. They were just saying their morning pledge. She would explain. They promised to learn, to grow, to help each other, and to make humanity proud among the stars. One day, a young Zephyrian mother brought her daughter to the memorial. The little girl was exactly Amy's age when she died. "I'm sorry," the mother said through tears. "I'm so sorry for what my people did." Dr. Carter knelt down and spoke to the little girl. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Amy," the child said quietly. "My name is Amy. My mommy named me after one of the children who died here." Dr. Carter felt tears in her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of hope. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It was their refusal to let evil win. It was their willingness to sacrifice everything to protect innocence. And in the end, they had done more than win a war. They had won the future. Children of every species now played together in schools across the galaxy. Above them, the ships of the Galactic Alliance kept watch, ensuring that no child would ever again suffer as the children of New Haven had suffered. The galaxy had heard Earth's fury, but more importantly, it had seen Earth's heart. Humanity had kept their promise. Never again, never forgotten,